up. Get ready. It's going to be a very, very intense journey. Begin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 104 of the Frameskip podcast. I am Austin Eller, and I'm joined by two good friends of mine. The one in pink, Seth Slakehouse. How are you?
This is my last t-shirt. This is the reason I'm wearing it. I have procrastinated doing laundry this long that this is my last t-shirt.
This is the final t-shirt straw.
Yes, this is the final t-shirt.
It's a good color.
It is a good color.
I don't even remember having this t-shirt. Like, it's been in my closet so long that I desperately was like searching in the back of my closet. Like, there's got to be something else in here.
Dude, isn't that the worst though? Like when you're down to the few clothes that you just don't want to wear, and that's like all that's in your closet.
Oh, like I'm not doing anything today, so I got this, and it's fine. But I'm just like, oh. See, the thing is that we live in an attic loft apartment, and we don't have a washer and dryer, so I gotta carry my laundry down 3 flights of steps, and then take it to the laundromat, and it's just such a pain in the ass. Because when you go to the laundromat, you have to sit there for like a solid 2 hours. And I'm like, I don't want to do that.
That's the worst. That's the worst part about laundromats is just the sitting there.
Yeah, it's terrible. I hate it.
Awful.
My apartment in college didn't have laundry, so the nearest laundromat was probably like 2 or 3 miles away. And it was on like this kind of underdeveloped like road, like between Burlington and Winooski. Like it was like right along the river. And it really sucked. It was really creepy and like scary. And it was like across the street from a gas station. So I would just like, go over, get cigarettes and soda and just like post up like outside the laundromat and would just hang out there waiting for my clothes to wash or whatever. And in the past couple of years, that underdeveloped road has since become like such a hot spot. And now like right next to the laundromat, there's like this awesome like Vietnamese restaurant with like a full service bar. And I'm just like, why am I 32? Why am I not 20 doing laundry now? Why don't I do my laundry now?
Is it like a gentrification thing that happened?
No, I think it was just people realized like, oh, this town is pretty popular. We should actually have things that people enjoy here. I think that was
dude, like, I was just wondering because the state of like gentrification right now is so interesting. Like, there's this town that's about 25 miles away from me, and it is the most rundown garbage place. It's like a former coal mine town, right? And there's this conflict going on between the people that have lived there forever and let it run into the ground, and then people that are like coming and buying property and houses there because it's cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And like, for instance, this one like fancy apartment building that they had built there caught on fire, and the fire department came and they got caught on video just going, "Let it burn," and cracking beers and drinking.
Oh my god. Jeez.
Whoa.
Yeah, like, it's a
That's
serious
intense.
conflict. Yeah. I'm just because like, and they're like, it's weird because everyone agrees that this town is a piece of crap. Right, it's like I got a huge drug problem, and there's no industry there whatsoever. There's not even like a fast food place. It's like done. But they are so dead set on just like not allowing anyone else in their town. It's wild.
Yeah, I mean it's a big problem in Atlanta. I know, definitely not on that level, but I know there are definitely issues like that around. Speaking of non-issues, I'm also joined by George Loftus.
Hey.
What a great transition. How are you, George?
I'm doing well. I'm exhausted. I feel a little low energy today, so I'm sorry. I hope I don't infect the podcast with my...
Yeah, bang it out. I bang it out and then I rein it in. I bang it out.
You're right. I should. I need to stop like looking at my shoes, stop looking at the ceiling tiles, and I just got to bang it out and then rein it in. That's all I got to do.
That's right, buddy.
I don't. So, George, are you like an energy drink guy at all? Like, obviously Seth is because he's currently chugging Bang as we record this episode. But I have never liked energy drinks.
I used to love Red Bull when I was in high school and when I
Okay.
was in college, but like only around finals. And for the most part, I've like cut caffeine out of my diet completely
Okay.
in the past couple years. I like
That's
don't do
actually
coffee.
that's a really great thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't do coffee. I like whenever I do grab a soda, I try so hard to get like the diet caffeine-free Coke, which like I know it doesn't taste great, but there's no caffeine in it, so I don't get
Right.
the little heart skips,
Right.
later in later in night when I'm trying to fall asleep finally.
Yeah, I still
um,
drink coffee somewhat regularly, but I don't drink any soda. And yeah, energy drinks were just never my thing. For that reason, though, I would always have the problems sleeping and weird like anxiety moments.
I get 48 cans of Bang delivered from Amazon every 2 weeks.
It's called Bang?
Yeah, that's the joke. I bang it out.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't know that was the. Oh, I thought you were just telling me to bang it out. I didn't know you were telling me to bang TM it out. Sorry.
Yeah.
But
And then the other energy drink I drink is Rain.
right.
I rain it in.
Oh my god, I had no idea. I really thought you were
Wow.
just telling me to go for it, but then like calm down. I really thought I didn't know that you were sponsored by these two drinks.
Well, like that's the other half of the joke, like
It's really good. Damn, that's smart. I knew you were funny. I didn't know you were a goddamn rocket scientist too there, Seth. That's good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wait, is Rain, is that like a cool down drink? Like is that like your post workout shake? Like,
Oh no, that's just more caffeine.
okay.
It's just the same thing, George. It's
I
the same
love
thing.
the idea though of like an energy drink that makes like one to like pump you up and then one to chill you out after that.
It's like the reverse flash. It has like reverse energy.
Yeah, exactly. God, that'd be incredible.
The energy drink
Can we
says-
just all agree though, as a podcast, because I know nobody out there listening cares about this, and certainly no hosts that are not here for the moment. Can we just all agree that G Fuel is the worst
Oh, it's
energy drink?
disgusting, dude. Dude, I
No,
tried.
podcast hosts care about it. Just to be clear,
Oh, I know. Yeah. No.
none of us, or the two that are not here.
I have
Listen.
zero opinion. I have less than zero opinions on G Fuel.
I am an energy drink aficionado, right? Like I'll pour it into a wine glass and kind of get the flavor,
and snifter, like a lot of earth tones. Yeah,
I've tried at least 4 different kinds of G Fuel, and they are all disgusting. Like they're terrible. I don't get it.
How do you feel about the fact that G Fuel pretty much makes its entire profit off of putting characters on the label? And that's pretty much what drives anybody to it is, oh, look, Crash Bandicoot is on this label, so this must be great.
that's not any different than how I buy comic books. So like, where do we draw the line?
True. I actually respect it though, because it was a genius marketing strategy, because G Fuel saw like an opportunity. They're like, hey, you know what? There's no energy drinks that are like geared towards gamers. They're all like bro energy type energy drinks. Let's get one in there for the nerds. And then they just took that idea and ran with it, dude. Like everybody's sponsored by G Fuel. And they're not like real sponsors. They're like, hey, use my code to get G Fuel. And then it's like, okay, well, you get like a kickback of the profit. And like that's fine. They're still like supporting small creators, but that's how they're able to get so much advertising at the same time. And yeah, they're just everywhere, man. And I'm actually impressed they got so much licensing, right? Because they have like Crash Bandicoot and Sonic the Hedgehog one, and
Like Resident Evil. I know Elijah bought all those, and
Live like Leon.
Yeah. So
it's like, hey, Elijah, if you're listening to this, go buy a statue or something, like.
Yeah, and this whole past like 2 or 3 minutes wasn't pointed at Elijah. I mean, just to be clear, like, I'm just kidding.
No, definitely not. But I am truly honest about my hatred for G Fuel. I mean, it is disgusting.
Do you guys remember Vault?
I loved Vault.
Yes.
Yeah, that was what, like Mountain Dew / energy drink, baby. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was like an energy drink that was owned by Mountain Dew, but it wasn't really an energy drink. It had like really low caffeine, like barely more than the regular Mountain Dew.
remember that got really big. Like this is like 5th, 6th grade, I think, is like around the time Red Bull came out. And I remember being like mystified by it because it says like made with taurine, and it's just like like the rumor at the time to dumb 10-year-old, 12-year-old George, whatever, was like, oh, that's like bull semen. Like that's the hidden ingredient that like gives Red Bull its kick. And it was the same thing about like, whoa, did you hear about this new drink? Like it's got like bull juice. I'm gonna call it that from now on because that's less gross. And I think
Liquids.
I think
It's
if I
not
say
less
I
gross.
think if I say jizz, you'll bleep it out. So I was just
Saying
being
bull
like,
juice is not less gross.
but just being like
Bull
mystified by it,
moisture.
like it really did feel like such a moment that was like trapped in that era where like it really was like, oh, did you hear about this new Japanese game called like Jet Set Radio? Like you just rollerblade and graffiti. It's awesome. Like it really felt like, whoa, like it was
That's
just
what I like to call the Axe body spray era.
God, I can't wait for the 2030s when the 2000s come back. It's gonna be great.
oh, it will be great. Man, I used to when I would have people over to my house, to my room in high school, I remember thinking I was so slick because I had like Axe body spray and I would like spray it on the fan blades of my room
Oh my god.
and then turn the fan on. I think Essence was the one I used the most. That was like the one that had like the two dragons like wrapped around each other like on
Yeah.
the spray bottle.
I want you to know that for almost all of my adult life, my mom would give me Axe body spray in a stocking because she got in that habit when I was like 13, 14, and she just never stopped. And I would just immediately throw it out when I got home.
Oh no.
And never wanted to tell her. Also, she got me these disgusting beef sticks. The Oberto beef sticks. They were
I've never heard of
terrible.
that.
Oh my god, let me see if I can find them. They were just awful,
Just
dude.
When you say beef sticks, like Slim Jims, like
Yeah.
fancy Slim Jims, okay.
I was gonna say I'll never forget when it comes to Axe. I'll never forget the commercial for like the chocolate one because people were like eating this chocolate man in the street. I was like, this is the strangest commercial I've ever seen.
So, speaking of commercials, for like 3 months, Burger King had this like man commercial, and they had this song that has stuck in my head for 10 plus years where you're just like, I am man, hear me roar, with hunger too big to ignore. You guys remember this
I
advertisement?
do remember that. That was Crispin Porter Bogusky, the
And
ad
it's
agency that did it.
It has been stuck in my head for like 15 years or whatever it is, man. I've never been able to forget it. It's a
What's
great song.
what's been stuck in my head from Burger King was like something they did that I thought was genius, and we're just going to talk about this because we're talking about the 2000s. They used to have like a drink menu on the side of their soda machines where like it wasn't like it was like how to make cocktails out of their sodas. Like if you mix Coke and Dr. Pepper together, they called that drink Black Gold.
Oh
That
my
is
god.
awesome. I don't remember that.
I don't remember
I
that.
don't
They
ever
just
saw
they
that.
had stuff like that, like just like, oh, if you mix Sprite and root beer, like it was just like a whole bunch of different things like that. And I just remember thinking that was so cool. Like the first time I like mixed two sodas at a Burger King, I felt like a goddamn alchemist. Like I felt like I was like inventing some magical elixir that would just carry me forward in time. I felt so freaking cool.
The 2000s were so much better than the 2010s, right? I mean, like, it's like the 2008 recession hit, and everyone was just like, hate this.
Yeah. Yeah, man, why do you think I do a comic book podcast all about stuff that came out in 2003? It's like, oh,
Yeah, there you
any
go.
excuse to talk about Billboard's Top 100 from 2002. Oh, J-Lo and LL Cool J when they were working together. Oh, that was the number one song. Yeah, let's take 5 minutes to talk about that banger.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, speaking of bangers, George, you're gonna bang it out and rein it in like Seth over here, and I want you to tell me what you've been playing this past week.
I haven't played a single thing this past week. It's been kind of nice. I've been reading a lot of comic books. I started reading Andre Agassi's biography, and I've actually been playing so much tennis. Like I've been actually like going out and playing a physical sport. I don't know if you guys know this. I was like ranked really high in tennis, like in high school. Like
Never
I was
talked about your
a
tennis.
doubles player. I was like me and my partner were ranked first team all conference for like Eastern Maine. we went undefeated like the last 2 years we played together, like junior, senior year of high school. And like we won our state championship match. We didn't win state championships because, we didn't win enough matches, but like we won our match. So we were state champions. That makes
Oh, that's
sense.
pretty sweet.
Right. Yeah. And so I've just been getting really into it. Like I've been dieting more. I've been trying to work out more from home. And I've just been good. Like today I left work early to do some physical therapy, and just I banged out 150 serves at the court. Like it just felt so good to just line up on the baseline, test out my new shoes, and just hit ball after ball. So like that's what I've been doing in my free time. Besides that, like I've been playing a lot of Shredder's Revenge on the weekends, like with buddies, just when time lines up. And that's pretty much all I've been doing with my time. It's been great. I leave my job on Friday, so I'm in kind of senioritis mode.
That's awesome, dude. Every once in a while, you just gotta serve your balls,
Yeah, serve your balls, bang it out
Serve your
from
balls.
the baseline.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dive those
No,
balls.
that's good though. I mean, we've been trying to work out more because we were in a pretty good habit for a while, and then like the pandemic hit, and we just kind of lost motivation. So, obviously, that was 2 years ago at this point. So I've been trying to kind of get back up to speed at our like apartment gym, and so far, like a couple weeks in, we've been doing pretty good. We've been working out like at least 3 or 4 days a week, which is somewhat consistent. So
That's
I'm
great.
hoping I can kind of get that up on my
That's
end as
been-
well. So
that's been the
let's
hard
encourage
part.
each other, George.
Yeah, that's been the hard part, is like slowing down. Like I want to go every
Yeah.
single day, but like, dude, my muscles are just like fried.
Yep.
And like I'm not great at tennis, but like I'm pretty good, and like I know what I'm doing. I've been playing since I was like 5 years old, 6 years old, whatever. So I'm just like sitting there and I'm like, okay, I can feel like the muscles in my shoulder are a little like torn. Like the fibers are like, okay, gotta let it rest. But also like, I just want to go. Like I set up targets, and I don't leave until I like knock them down like 5 times each, which sucks because like I'm not the most accurate when I serve the ball, which is why I had to hit 150 today. But like
I serve a lot of balls, George.
It's just so nice to like get out, be physical, and like I just listen to like the music. I made a playlist of like my favorite songs in high school, and I just feel like I'm 17 again. It's awesome.
Do you guys ever get in like the weird mood? Like I'm in this situation right now where no music I listen to is like hitting it.
Yes.
100%.
I'm like,
Yes.
where I actually just turned off my music at work the other day and just did it in silence because I'm like, I don't want to listen to any of this.
Yes, that's been my problem for a while, actually, like for at least a month. Where I have just been listening to podcasts, and I'm like, man, I just don't want to listen to music. Like there's nothing I want to listen to right now.
So weird.
But my issue, what I have found is that in this like digital age that we live in with Spotify and all this stuff, I have a really hard time like finding new artists and like finding new songs. I don't know why that is, because Spotify, like I can search and do whatever, but I don't know. I find myself frequently just stuck listening to the same things over and over, and I just get sick of listening to it.
So
I don't know if I'm just insane.
What I do is, because I have YouTube Premium, and that comes with YouTube Music. And YouTube Music is actually great at recommending me new artists because Google knows everything about me. So they're like, you're gonna love this.
I know your
And I'm
blood
like,
type.
actually, you're right. I do love this. Thank you.
Spotify is trash. Like Spotify. Yeah, I said it. Well, like I made a playlist of like every song that like had meaning to me in high school. And it's 18 hours long, that playlist. Like it's just like every single different like emo, screamo, and extremo artists that I remember like, reacting to like they were gospel when I was younger. And every time I put it on, I just put it on shuffle and I hear the same 15 songs. It's like, dude, this is a playlist with like 400 tracks. Like why am I hearing so many of the same Something Corporate songs every time I do it? And I love Something Corporate. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. I definitely have experienced this too, where I get a playlist, put it on shuffle, and it's like 5% of that list is like 99% of the music that gets circulated
every time.
I have had that issue as well on Spotify. So it must be something with their algorithm. I don't know what it is.
I think with music too, it's kind of the same thing with games, where there's just so much available now that like it kind of loses its value a little bit. Right, like I don't have to work for music. Like if the Killers release like a new album, I'm like, okay, great, I can listen to that literally whenever I want because I have it on Spotify, or I could just look it up on YouTube. Like there's no value, and like I was transferred over to PlayStation Plus Premium because I had PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus. And so I've got hundreds of games I can play. I've never had more access to more games. I'm like, yeah, none of these, not doing it for me. Nope.
Dude, that's kind of the same for me though. I mean, just game wise, like I have Game Pass and I think about all the games I could be playing, and now I've got, as just like you, PlayStation Plus Premium, and I just don't want to play any of it. Like I just want to keep playing the games I already have. So
Sunbreak me, baby.
yeah, I do not plan on renewing my Game Pass this year. Probably what I'll do is just when a big game comes out, I'll renew it for a month or two and play it. I feel like I kind of made a mistake buying a year's worth of it because I used it for a couple months last fall for Forza and Halo, and that was about it. But
Yeah.
anyway, Seth.
So, I actually have the same issue right now where there's nothing I want to play, and I decided to just give up.
Okay.
So no, like it's funny because I've been having this issue for a long time, man. Like where I'm just like, man, there is absolutely nothing I want right now out of my library. So me and Caitlin just picked up playing D&D again, and we've been having a blast with that. I picked up some other hobbies like 3D printing. I got back into that. And I've just been going for them. Now it is interesting because I did buy a game this past week because I saw it came out. Because like I said, I've been in a big D&D mood. So there was this game that came out in, I think 2019 called Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance.
Yeah.
And I just took a shot in the dark and bought it, and I played 53 minutes of it, and it's now uninstalled. So the game is really bad.
That was a Game Pass launch game. Like it
Was
launched
it?
day one on Game Pass, and I remember it came out and everybody just talked about how awful it was.
It's really bad.
I
And it
was so
shouldn't be.
excited. I was so excited for that game.
Yeah, I took a shot in the dark, and I was like, well, I'm in a D&D mood, and, let me give this a good old college try. And it's not, dude, it's like unfinished. Like when you play as Drizzt and he stands, he actually glides across the ground because he's not actually colliding with the ground.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. So then I was like, okay, well, let me try like Divinity Original Sin 2 because that game's great, right? But I hate the beginning of that game at Fort Droid, and the beginning of it takes so long that I'm just like, I'm good, man. I'm just gonna keep playing D&D. So me and Caitlin actually, we started a game of D&D with her friend DMing the most popular D&D official module, the Curse of Strahd, and then we started our own at home here because the Essentials pack for D&D you can actually run with one DM and one player. So that's what we've been doing a lot lately. That's pretty nice because we can kind of just do it whenever. We don't have to worry about other people's schedules. So having a blast with that.
Do you just like purposely come up with ways to mess with her when you're DMing, and does she just purposely come up with ways to mess with you when you're or when she's DMing?
No, she doesn't. She hasn't DM'd yet, but I try not to. I try to follow the Essentials book like as closely as possible because the book is the Dragon of Ice Spire Peak is the campaign that came with it, and it's actually, in my opinion, probably the best module that I've ever read through for D&D. It's like I don't know if have you ever done an official campaign?
No, I've
D&D?
only done like a friend's like custom one.
Yeah, so like the modules are actually really hard to run. I think they're a lot harder than homebrew because they give you like a skeleton of a plot and a campaign, and then like you have to kind of fill in the gaps. But I would say like for the Essentials guide, it gives you more like the skeleton and the muscles, and there's a lot more to it. So
some of the nervous system, a little
Yeah.
bit of a respiratory, yeah.
So
Nice.
yeah, that's pretty much all I've been doing.
I've never actually played D&D of any kind, so that's like a
We
huge
should
blank
have like
spot of my life.
we should run like a short pickup
one-shot?
like Lost Mines of Phandelver or something, like a really short campaign through like Roll20.
Yeah.
Roll20 is awesome. Actually, like I'm playing later tonight in Roll20. I'm very excited.
We could even
Is that like a website or something, or
Yeah, it's like
I don't
a
even know what
digital
that
like
is.
mapping and like character moving and let someone like DM and drop enemies in and stuff. It's really really cool.
Wow.
What I think is interesting about it is that it's created this secondary market for high quality paid dungeon masters. And people can now make a living off of, dude, there's this website where you go through and you can recruit a dungeon master, and they make so much money. If like they're at the top of the list, they make on average $20 a person per session, right? And a lot of D&D campaigns go for like 6 months. So they run these multiple times a week, usually with like 5 players each, and they get a ton of money for DMing. And I think that, I mean, and it is like a good skill to have, or not a good skill to have, but like a hard skill to like master. So it makes sense if you want to. Like, I've thought about hiring like a professional DM. I think it's
I
a
don't
pretty
know.
cool idea.
That sounds like exhausting though. Like just like I've only played D&D with like one group of people, and I'm just thinking like, okay, the amount of prep work that goes into it. I don't know, probably like what, an hour, 2 hours per session.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get $100 per person, but then like each session is like what, 3 to 5 hours.
Yeah.
But then I guess you can run that over and over again with multiple groups, and like that's where the money's got to come from, right?
Yeah, I mean, I figure like because if you look, some of these guys have like been doing it for like 2 years, and they've had like 840 campaigns completed, and it's like, okay, well, you're getting $100 per session. That's quite a bit of money.
Yeah,
That's crazy. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah,
I thought
it's
you were
pretty
going to
cool.
talk about the secondary market for assets using Roll20.
Oh, well,
like,
that too.
like digital, like, okay, we need, goblins to look good, or we need orcs to look good, or here we need some like more interesting maps. And like I've noticed that like as time has gone on, like we started right, the pandemic kicked off in like March of 2020. And man, all of the enemies we go against now look so good compared to like the ones we started against.
Yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
it's pretty cool. D&D's gotten huge, which is weird because it seemingly came out of nowhere. And I suspect that Critical Role's popularity had something to do with like the kickoff of D&D, but I'm not positive where it
That's what
came
got our
from.
DM back into, like, he played in college and like did like Warhammer miniatures, like did all this nerdy stuff, and then it was Critical Role that like sort of reawakened like the passion in him for D&D stuff.
It's so weird because like Critical Role's big, but they're not like absurdly big, right? I mean, they have a 1.74 million subscribers, which is a lot, but it's not like mainstream huge. I think. I don't know.
Yeah, but I feel like that's an audience that like spends money.
Do that. There's Austin. Have you ever watched Critical Role?
No, I haven't.
So, do you know what the premise is?
No.
Okay, you're gonna love this. You might actually end up checking this out.
Yeah.
It is the biggest voice actors in the industry running D&D campaigns. So you have Laura Bailey, Ashley Johnson, Liam O'Brien, Matt Mercer. What's the big dude's name?
Troy Baker?
No, not Troy Baker.
Nolan
the
North?
big statue dude.
Oh, the physically big guy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, I don't
he's
even
married.
know.
He's married to Laura Bailey, and Matt Mercer is the DM, but he's probably like the best DM in the world. He's really good, dude. Like he's really good. The problem with Critical Role though, and I have no problem saying this because it's 100% clear, their fan base is abhorrent, absolutely disgusting. They have like one of the worst fan bases on the internet. It's about as bad as Star Wars.
Wow.
Like Marissa. I think the bang is giving me minor strokes. Marisha Ray is one of the people that plays with them, and her character was kind of like an edgy character in the last campaign, and they were sending death threats to her because they didn't like the actions that her character took. I'm like,
that's ridiculous.
I just hate the world.
Yeah.
The weirdest part about that is like, obviously I would never like say anything to Star Wars about like something I disagreed with because it's like not my story. But like I can understand why someone wouldn't think why someone would say something horrible to Star Wars, and like if they get a response like, well, why don't you just make your own? It's like, dude, I can't. Shut up. You know I can't.
Yeah.
But then like with Critical Role, it's like, oh, I hate this decision your character. It's like, all right, well, play your own D&D campaign. It's like, I could. You're right. I totally could do this. Like, there's literally nothing stopping me, right?
Yeah.
And I have heard of them. I just need to sit down and watch them at some point, and I guess I'll avoid the comment section on those videos when I get to that.
I mean, like, I think for some reason, I think every fan base might just be like this now. I'm starting to realize it more and more as I get older, is that like every like subreddit or like fan base page you go on is like just, it's like they hate their own show. You know, I'm like, I don't really want to be involved in any of these communities anymore. I don't know. It's weird. I actively avoid any Star Wars conversation whatsoever on the internet now.
Yeah, the only ones I'm interested in having are like with you guys. And like Seth, you and I disagree about so much about Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I've never wanted to punch you. I don't think you've wanted to punch me. Like,
no.
Even though you are the person I'd feel most comfortable telling to like, dude, go die in a fire. And I assume like you know, we know each other well enough where we could say that. Literally never crossed my mind to say that to you.
Dude, but you're right, because I see these people talk online and my immediate reaction is physical aggression. Like, I want to actually crush this man's skull.
I mean, after like the Obi-Wan stuff and just seeing the reactions
the Obi-Wan
to
stuff
that, I mean,
was
disgusting.
Because that show is really good, I think.
Yeah.
I just can't believe people were like, oh god, I hate this character so much. She makes no sense. It's like, dude, it's a second episode. It is the second episode. You know literally nothing about her. Shut up.
You're breaking canon. And I'm like, you guys need to calm down. Like,
come on,
obviously
coach.
They're gonna fix it. Yeah, I know, right?
Oh, Lord.
It drove me crazy that the Kenobi show, man, because like it was clear by the final episode, or they were gonna fix like the things they set up, because they're trying to build suspense. Surprise, it's a show. You know, come on, God. That is what broke me to the Star Wars community. I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, speaking of breaking me, what's something that's breaking my time is Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak.
I knew you were going to talk about it. I hate you.
Which came out on Friday, and I wish I was playing it with Seth. Unfortunately, I'm not.
No, you don't.
So far it's fantastic. I mean, it's just more Monster Hunter, frankly. Like it's not reinventing the wheel or anything, and that's typically how these expansions are. But you know, I had been playing a ton of Rise leading up to Sunbreak. I think I'm at like 120 hours, something like that, maybe 125. And so I was really gearing up for it. I got to like the final post game boss of Rise, and so I was well set for Sunbreak, and so far it's fantastic. My only complaint that I will say is that, oddly enough, Iceborne was not like this in World, but when you start the new quests, for some reason, like the first few hours, you don't fight any new monsters. It's like all the old monsters that have just been upgraded with new moves. I thought that was a strange kind of choice, but we're finally getting into the newer stuff. We're getting there. So, and I hear it gets a lot better as the further you get, kind of the more monsters you get into. But so far, you know, I'm loving it. It's more Monster Hunter. I really like the style. It's kind of like medieval type stuff this time around, which I think is pretty neat. Coming off of like the more Japanese, like historic Japanese type content that was in base Rise, I think it's a really, really neat kind of juxtaposition. So I'm enjoying it. I can't wait to play more. I don't have a whole lot to say, only because I've only played a few hours so far, but it is very good. Very good.
I got Watson to play Monster Hunter with me when I was playing it pretty religiously like 6 months ago, and he did, and we only had a couple sessions together, and he had like started getting the hang of it, right? And then like 3 or 4 weeks ago, he hit me up. He's like, "Hey man, you want to play Monster Hunter?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure," thinking like he's kept up, you know, this whole time. And we jump in, and he's like, yeah, give me a second. I gotta figure out, you know, the controls again." And talk about the most miserable play session I've ever seen, dude. And then like, because like, if one person dies 3 times, it's over. You're done.
Right.
and I bet we wiped like 3 times in a row, and I'm just like, oh.
Well, it is a hard game to like if you haven't played it in a while, and if you're not somebody like me. I mean, I've been playing the game for like 15 years at this point. It's hard to like jump back in and remember all that. It's very hard, and then I
Yeah.
would almost say it's like Final Fantasy like MMO level of, oh god, I don't know my
Well,
rotations. Like, what the hell am I supposed to be doing?
yeah, it is similar to that, but at least in like Final Fantasy 14, like you can kind of guess and like probably be okay unless you're playing high level stuff. With Monster Hunter, it's so different than any other games you play. Because for some reason, like when you play it, it works and it makes sense once you understand how to play it. But if you're coming in with no experience to Monster Hunter and trying to pick it up, it's like, what is this archaic nonsense that this game is pulling? But
Yeah.
I mean, I love Monster Hunter Rise, and I really wish I had people to play with. And I've bought it twice, surprisingly. Have I ever told you this story?
No,
Oh yeah. So I bought it once.
twice.
I bought it once on Switch to play with you, and then you stopped playing, and I had to buy it on PC.
Well, that "had" is a word that you put in there, so
Yeah.
I just like to clarify.
Yeah.
Oh wait, hold on, Seth. While we're here, can I read a list of games I've bought for other people too that I started keeping last week?
Yeah.
Rainbow Six Extraction. Hey, Austin. Nintendo Switch Sports. Hey, Austin.
I told you like a week before that game came out that I wasn't getting it.
You told me 4 days, and you said like we pre-ordered it the same day. Super Mario Party. Hey,
Super
Austin.
Mario Party? I have Super Mario Party.
Oh, why haven't we played it together?
I don't know.
Pokemon Diamond Remake. That one's not for you.
Okay.
Borderlands 2, Elder Scrolls Online. Those are the biggest ones that like stand out to me.
I always think about The Division, the first one. I bought that game to play with 2 like really good buddies from high school, and then they just never played it. And I was like, all right, I guess I just wasted $60 on this game.
Yeah, I bought that game too. I remember like walking to Target in like a rainstorm in San Francisco. They were completely sold out, and I was like, damn it. So I just bought beer, and then I went home and I bought it digitally. And I was like, okay, man, I'm ready to play. Hold on a second. And then I saw the download. I'm like, all right, I'll play tomorrow. And then we played that game twice together, and I literally have not spoken to that person since.
Oh my god. Seth, I wanted to ask you something, by the way. I didn't talk about this in the games I've been playing because I didn't really play a whole lot of it. I probably played like less than an hour. But I did start up Dragon's Dogma before Sunbright came out. Did you play any of that game? I feel like I remember you talking about that game at some point.
You mean Dark Arisen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Sunbreak's the Monster Hunter one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said before he started playing that. He was
before I started Sunbreak, I booted up Dragon's Dogma. I was just curious what you thought about that game and if it was worth like my time, because 2 was announced.
Yes, Dragon's Dogma is a game, and it's funny because I actually installed it the other day and played like 20 minutes of it. Dragon's Dogma is a game that is fantastic and way ahead of its time. Like, the AI in Dragon's Dogma is insane, and the amount of lines they recorded and the gameplay systems. And it's hard to say because it's a very hard game.
Yeah,
Dragon's Dogma is like what D&D should be if you run all the encounters by the book. Like, it's very unforgiving and brutal,
right?
And like if you don't carry a torch at night, you can't see, and there might be just a griffin in the woods, and it's like, okay, this sucks, but it's really cool. And one of the coolest things about Dragon's Dogma that people don't seem to talk about is the follower system and how the recruitment works and stuff like that. Because I don't know if you guys know, but like when you're not playing the game, your follower can get recruited by other players and join their party and gain XP and stuff like that. And that just happens automatically because, like, and then when you rest it in, it'll be like, oh, your pawn has come back from journeys with other followers and gained so and so amount of XP and items and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, this is like a really cool system, and you can recruit other people's followers as well. And I think that's like a really neat system.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Dragon's Dogma was great.
Yeah, I had only played like an hour, so I didn't really get super far into it. But I was like, man, is this still worth playing? It was kind of hard for me to tell based off my first 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I think it came out in like 2012 or 2011. So
yeah,
the
it's a
graphically,
little bit
it's
dated.
yeah, graphically it's a little rough, but I think if you can get past that, man, Dragon's Dogma is terrific.
Okay. Well, at some point, once I'm kind of wrapped up with Sunbreak, I'd like to go back to it. So cool.
Definitely.
Is that a game Capcom should remake once they've remade all the Resident Evils?
Well, I think they are. Didn't they announce like a
We announced the
remaster?
second one.
I thought they also announced like a remaster of Dragon's Dogma.
I don't know that they did. The one I'm playing is on Xbox One and PS4. I don't know about like a current gen version though. Maybe they did announce that and I missed it, but I'm not positive. So.
Is Capcom doing the best of like all third-party publishers right now? Like, or do they have like the highest like hit rate? I guess like with fans.
I don't know. Like I know Capcom's doing really well, and I think Dragon's Dogma is a weird one because they definitely wanted to make an MMO of Dragon's Dogma. I think they actually even announced an MMO.
They
and
did
it was
make
like
it.
clearly canceled.
No, they did make it, and it was Japan only, I think.
What?
If I'm recalling correctly.
No, come on. There's no way.
And they made the anime as well. That's on. I think it's on Netflix.
Yeah, it feels
but
right.
Oh my god, you're right. It was.
But it's weird.
2015.
It's strange because like that game, I don't feel like it was super successful here necessarily. I mean, people knew about it, but it was strange that it got all this attention like later down the line. So I'm curious if it was.
It's like basically what Seth did, where it's just like saying like, wow, that game was really ahead of its time. And like I think at the time people were just like, yeah, it's not Skyrim, But then all of a sudden, like when there was just the first lull in like the PlayStation 4, Xbox One cycle, people were like going back and revisiting it. That was when I remember like 2014 was when I remember people like asked if I've played it. I'm like, no one asked if I played it when this game came out. Like why did it take 3 or 4 years for people to get curious about if I played this game or not?
Well, it's like one of those games where I've never heard anyone say anything bad about Dragon's Dogma. Like I've never heard anyone be like, I hate that game.
Yeah.
It's only ever been like really good things.
So yeah, to clarify, Dragon's Dogma Online, it did release, I guess, in Japan in 2015, but I think it's since been shut down.
I couldn't believe it. I thought that was an MMO product that was canceled.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, let's hit our big topic of the show this week. George kind of came up with this one, and George, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, so I've been thinking recently that there's just not as many licensed games as there used to be. And that's probably for the best. I know licensed games did not have the best reputation amongst players back in the day, but I really, really like them personally. So I was thinking, like, what would be the best movies from the past couple years that did not get licensed games or TV shows or whatever? Like, what are the best properties that would have been primed for some good games? And so, much like the way the Bumblebee movie kind of turned around that film franchise, and turned around is really generous, I understand, but the way that Bumblebee was like a watchable Transformers movie, I think a Bumblebee game would have been really good. I also think that with Godzilla coming back and all those fun movies, like a Kong Skull Island being like, in my head, like a Western sort of like first person shooter Monster Hunter crossover where it was just you like going in and like, killing beasts, and like kind of like Far Cry where you have to like get all these different ingredients and materials to like build more survivable things. Like I think that could have been a lot of fun. So we've been brainstorming about games that we think should have existed from movies and TV shows and books and comics and all this fun stuff for the past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think one of the big ones that immediately comes to mind, and I hate to bring it up again because we've been talking about this movie nonstop, but Top Gun Maverick. I mean, Top Gun, the first movie had so many game iterations. I mean, over a span of 20, 25 years.
They made a brand new GameCube game for it.
Right. And didn't they release a Top Gun game on PS3 and 360 digitally? I'm pretty sure they did, if I'm recalling.
That feels right, like an online only.
I don't think it was really good, but they did release it.
Yeah, and it was on original Nintendo also.
Yeah. Yep. And I remember growing up, there was
Er,
a Top Gun game on Game Boy Advance. I had that. I played a lot
there
of
was
that when I was a
a
kid.
Top Gun game on PS3 called Top Gun Hardlock.
Okay.
I don't know if that's what you're talking about or
I think
not.
it is. I think it is. But yeah, we can always use more flight games, and certainly like Top Gun Maverick, seeing how successful that movie is and how it's kind of brought people back to that original film and kind of nostalgia there. I think that to me, like if I could pull anything, it would be a Top Gun Maverick licensed game. I mean, the opportunities there I think would be endless. Like I said, I'm sure that most of these Top Gun games were not very good. I just have so much nostalgia of playing the NES one and playing the like I said, there was the one on Game Boy Advance that I had when I was a kid, and I can't recall the title of it, but I adored those games just as somebody who enjoyed the movie. It was always like, man, this is so cool to be able to fly this F-14. These few little pixels on the screen, like this is the best. And so would love to have seen that return with Maverick.
That's a great answer, and I also think that keeps our streak for talking about Top Gun alive. I
You're
think
correct.
that's like 4 straight episodes where we've
Yes.
talked about Top Gun Maverick.
I haven't seen it yet, and I really want to.
I'm seeing it
goodness.
a third time this weekend. I'm very excited.
Nice.
It's coming to
I've
my
seen it
local
twice.
theater.
Nice.
So my answer is actually something George alluded to earlier, in that I think we have completely missed out on like a kaiju fighting game. There was a game called War of the Monsters on the PS2 and GameCube, and it was really, really cool. At least when I was a kid, it was really cool. I don't know how good it actually was, but like, man, you got like all the Godzilla resurgence and Kong, and then you had like the Pacific Rim movies that came out in the early, like the early 2010s. And I just think like seeing all these monsters fighting again would be really cool. You could even throw like the Godzilla marketing on it. Also, the other game I was thinking of is we could really use a Fast and Furious video game.
Yeah, I mean, with like Need for Speed kind of going away.
Kidding. Absolutely kidding. There was one that came out last year.
I forgot about that one that released. I
Crossroads?
forgot about that.
Is that what it's called?
Well,
Yeah.
I forget what it was called.
Yeah, okay, but I agree. We need like a good Fast and Furious
Yeah.
video game.
Yeah.
Well,
because there is precedent for that. The Forza Horizon 2 DLC. There was a Fast and Furious Forza Horizon 2 DLC that was standalone, and it was all Fast and Furious based, and it was really good.
Dude, I don't even know what Fast and Furious is anymore. Like
I feel like an idiot because
What
I think
is
the
it?
first one is still the best one, and then I think the fifth one is the second best one.
the fifth one was where they were in Brazil.
Yeah.
Yeah, fifth one's pretty good. Like the only thing that really annoyed me about Fast 5 was that there was one actual racing scene, and they cut it out. They go to like the underground race, remember, and then they just come back with the cars. I'm like, what?
Okay.
Why?
Some more answers. I actually don't really care about any of like the MCU movies. I think like I mean, not that I don't care about them, but like for getting like a video game, like for whatever reason, like an Infinity War like Muso game is like the most interesting to me, right? Where it's just like fighting like hordes and hordes of whatever they were called, the Chitauri or whatever they were in by the time Infinity War rolled around. I actually think of all of them, a Black Widow game would have been the most interesting.
Oh yeah, Black Widow game would have been cool.
Because I remember like when Batman Begins came out, there was a movie tie-in game by either EA or Ubisoft, I can't remember. But it was basically just like Diet Splinter Cell. Like it was like baby's first Splinter Cell game. And I was so bad at Splinter Cell and I loved Batman. So that game, perfect to me. That game really means a lot to me. So I think Black Widow would have been like the most premium. Besides that, I really wish like Telltale didn't go away. Or if a studio like Supermassive or something. Because like I think like The Social Network, like some kind of like dramatic game, right? Like a actual like Moneyball, like something like that, where like it is just like entirely based on conversations. You can really screw people over, or you can yourself get screwed over if you make poor decisions. Like I think there could have been something interesting like that. I mean, like we got a Reservoir Dogs video game 15 years after that movie came out. Don't tell me we can't get a social network game.
So wasn't Telltale supposed to be coming back, and then, like, they never did?
Yeah, I'm kind of confused by their status, to be honest with you. I'm like totally lost as to what
Because
happened
didn't
with them.
what's
Because
the
they've announced like a new Wolf Among Us, right? Like they're
Yeah.
working on that, but I don't know. Are they
um
doing anything else, or have they released anything?
who,
I don't know.
who was the guy who wrote The Walking Dead and Invincible?
Robert Kirkman.
Robert Kirkman.
Robert Kirkman owns a video game company,
Skybound.
Skybound, and didn't they buy Telltale?
I believe so. Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to figure out, like, where they came from. Have they announced anything?
I didn't have friends who worked at Telltale, but I had friends who were dating people who worked at Telltale. And like when that company like went under, like I think like it's kind of like what is it, Odysseus' ship, where it's just like, okay, like you can have the name and you can have the properties, but like is it the same studio if the same people aren't there? Like not really, right?
Well, so the thing was about Telltale was they made really good stories, but their games were a complete mess, man. And that was always the unfortunate thing about Telltale was, like, even their last ones, like Batman Season 2 crashed constantly. The frame rate was awful, and it's like, man, these games shouldn't be running this bad. Um, and I think that's where a lot of and the development of them took forever too. You know,
Mhm.
if one episode was coming out a month, that would have been fine. But it was like one episode every 6 months was the issue, and it's a shame because I think their games actually were really fun. It's just you had to kind of be like, well, it's sort of like what you do with Bethesda games, right? It's like, well, it's kind of part of the charm of it, all the glitches and stuff.
Yeah.
With Telltale, I was like, well, you kind of had to go for it. Trying to.
So I've got another one. Everybody when they think back to like the N64, they always think about GoldenEye, and I feel like we've really missed out on Bond video games like the past 10 years. I know we had a couple probably in the early 2010s.
Mhm.
And I don't necessarily think they were video game tie-ins, though. If I'm recalling correctly, I think there was like a remake of GoldenEye that was not great, and then there was another one that I can't recall the name of. I just remember it was like a black and white box art with like red text on it. I can't think of what the
Bloodstone.
name was. Yes, yes, but of course was not a tie-in. So, No Time to Die. I mean, I would kill to see
I hear you. I just
James
think
Bond
honestly
come
the
back
James Bond
to that
movies
form.
got too smart. Like I think that's the problem. Like I think
true.
like GoldenEye was like more of an action movie than a spy movie,
That's
and
true.
then they became sort of like more borderline like political thrillers.
I
Yeah.
100% agree.
That's a good point.
That said, IO Studios is making a new 007 game, right?
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that.
I'm excited for that. I thought of another comic book movie that I think would have deserved a game, and it's Logan. Like
Yes,
of all
I
the
agree.
superhero movies, I think that one would have been like a really fun one because it would have been across somewhere between Red Dead Redemption and The Last of Us, right? And so I think like emotionally that game could have really worked. And like, man, they're making a Wolverine game, right? At Insomniac.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Man, I hope it's deep. John Wick 3 or John Wick series. Would,
That was
would that
another one
have
of mine.
been a fun shoot 'em up game?
Yes, absolutely. I think that would have been a blast, and they could have done some fun stuff with that too. I know those movies are super serious for the most part. They have some funny moments, but they're intended to be serious. But I can imagine some fun, like kind of Bulletstorm-esque, like this is a ridiculous kill, like type gameplay. So
Something
I
like
think that
Max
would be really,
Payne. And
really
did you ever
neat.
play the Punisher game on original Xbox?
No,
Yes, it's so good.
Dude, so you were Frank Castle, the Punisher. You were really good at murdering people, but like you'd have to interrogate people to like get information, and every situation was like contextual. So you'd grab someone who knew something, like there'd be like a little marker letting you know that they knew something. You'd be like in an auto body shop, so you'd grab them, and then you'd like walk them over towards like a drill, and then you'd have like the drill pointed towards the back of their head, and you'd have to like balance the analog stick so you can like put pressure on them so they think you're actually going to do it, but not go so hard that you actually kill them. And that was like for every level of the game. There was like at least like 3 different rooms that had like 6 different ways to kill someone. And so it's like in that same like mechanic shop, you could go over and like drop an engine block on them. You could be like in an aquarium and like try to drop them into like a piranha tank. Like you could grab a pair of pliers and like try to rip out their teeth or something. Like it was just like all this really ridiculous over the top stuff that was just like, in hindsight, I'm like, I can't believe they figured out how to do that in 2003, and I can't believe someone actually paid them to do it. It's insane.
It was like a
That's crazy.
really controversial game. I thought, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah,
like,
it was.
It like made a lot of headlines. Also, George, what is your opinion of the Punisher? Like in general,
The character or the movie?
the character.
Character? I think the character is really interesting. I don't think he's always handled the best. I don't think he should be in his own title, but I think him showing up in other titles is probably like I think he's the best supporting character. I don't think he's like the lead.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's kind of. I think he's kind of overblown as far as Marvel character goes.
It's just tough because like that character, like when he really blew up, it was like everything was extreme just for like extreme's sake, right? Like it was like when 90s crime was like, you know, everyone like all the statistics showed that like crime was only going to get worse in the 90s, and then all of a sudden it like dropped. And there's like one reason why people think that happened. I'm not going to share it here because I don't want to offend any listeners, but there's one very specific reason why economists think that actually happened. And so like the reason for the Punisher being around kind of stopped. And then like with, you know, mass shooting becoming just like a national headline, like there's a conversation to be had about this character. I just don't think we've like had the most interesting or like poignant one yet.
Well, I also think like he kind of got co-opted by like people who don't even understand the character, right? Like you see like a lot of like military guys just like sporting the skull, and it's like, well, you guys don't even really know what you're talking about with the Punisher, and that kind of annoys the hell out of me. It's like, okay, well,
it's pretty gross when you see like a cop with like a Punisher patch on. It's like, dude, actually Frank hates you. Like Frank hates everything about you.
You guys don't even understand what you're doing. That's but whatever.
It's really beyond frustrating. I don't know. Like there's a new series right now, but like the author is this guy named Jason Aaron who like explains like the logo change. Because I think he took over the hand or something, so like he changed like the skull logo to like
and I understand why Marvel did that, but it doesn't really matter because like that logo's always gonna be the Punisher logo.
Yeah,
you know, so it's like kind of got co-opted there.
Also, yeah, mileage varies with Jason Aaron, so I have no idea if that series is good or not.
Me either. Haven't read comics in forever.
All right. Well, you guys got any other licensed games to discuss, or shall we move on?
I think Jurassic World would have been, or like the Jurassic series and like the Planet of the Apes series would have been super fun.
Yeah.
See, I'm trying to think of one that hasn't already been made that would make a good video game. Something like Blade Runner would have made a good video game. But we already kind of got that with Cyberpunk.
Mm-hmm.
But Blade Runner, I think, has a really good story. I just recently watched the new Blade Runner movie, and I thought it was fantastic.
I still have not seen
2049 is incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah. And our boy never ages. I mean, he does, but he looks really good. He looks really good.
I need to watch that movie at some point. I love the first one, and I just still somehow have not seen 2049.
What did you guys think of them making a new Indiana Jones? At some point, he's getting too old, right?
Know, man.
I mean, like Crystal Skull was a turd. I get it, but
he was at least like reasonable to be in that movie, right?
Yes,
like that was the last possible second you can make Harrison Ford action star movie.
Yes. I mean, like I said, he looks really good for his age, but what are you doing crawling around these like dangerous ancient tombs? Are you gonna run from a boulder this time?
I hope it's like I hope he becomes like the Sean Connery figure, right? Like the older, sort of like curmudgeon-y, jaded person, right? And then there's like some younger, but it's like who's good enough to pick up the hat?
But they like
after
kind of attempted to do that in Crystal Skull, and it just didn't.
That was bad.
Work.
That was bad.
Yeah, but it was bad writing.
Yeah, I was like they could have pulled it off if it wasn't for the weird plot of Crystal Skull.
There was a lot of great moments in that movie, but it wasn't a good movie, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Like them, like on the motorcycle, like going through the library. Like I actually like that scene is like super fun. Parts of the jungle chase are really fun, but it's weird that like they just made it so like CGI and like not a lot of practical effects, and that's like one thing I really miss about those movies is like how real they feel. And so that on top of like, discovering aliens in South America or whatever the plot was.
Yeah, I mean, I would really love. I mean, this new Indiana Jones movie, it has to be good. Like, it's got to be good because it's almost certainly going to be the last one we're going to get.
Well, it's James Mangold, right? Isn't he directing it?
I think so.
Yeah, that dude's awesome. He did Logan. He did Ford versus Ferrari. He did Copland. He did great. Like he's done great movies. Like I don't know if he's had a bad movie.
I don't know. It's got to be good. It's probably Harrison Ford's one of his last movies, and it's got to be like the last Indiana Jones movie. So,
man, did you guys see a movie called Age of Adeline?
Mm-mm.
So it's this movie about Blake Lively who like gets caught in like some weird electrical storm in like the 1930s, and she like stops aging. And so she like never lets herself fall in love because she's just like young forever, and it's just like too complicated to explain and too heartbreaking to find out. And then she starts like seeing this guy who takes her to like meet his family. And it turns out her dad is Harrison Ford, who's someone she had a tryst with like back in the 50s or 60s or something. And he's like losing his mind because he's like, no, I know you. And she's like, no, you don't. She's like lying or whatever. One of the best like low key, small budget, small scale like drama movies I've seen. And like the flashbacks they got for the guy to play Harrison Ford. I liked Aldrin Heinrich or whatever that guy's name was for Solo, but like, how was it not this guy? This guy is like the most perfect Harrison Ford impersonator that feels like disrespectful to him, but like he was just so good at being a young Harry. God, he would have been incredible in Solo.
Yeah,
I still like Solo though. I know that's like not the popular opinion, but I actually think that movie's really good.
I feel like liking Solo is a pretty popular opinion. I don't see many people talking badly about Solo. I think the general consensus is like it's a good movie, but it's not like it's not like a standout.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Quickly before we wrap up the show, I did want to touch on some big news this week. God of War Ragnarok. The release date was revealed this week, and I think George and I were kind of talking about it beforehand, and it's coming out November 9th, and they announced these collector's editions, which, by the way, all their collector's editions that they revealed, none of them include a physical copy of the game, which is odd to me. They're all download codes. But that aside, and then they showed like a 30-second CG trailer. They didn't show any gameplay. It was more so just hey, this is when the game's coming out. Here's some small little tidbits. And to me, I thought this was kind of a misstep. And George, it sounds like you kind of agree with me. This is one of my most anticipated games, and so to see it kind of fumbled in this way, I was a little shocked and disappointed, to be honest.
I think from a marketing standpoint, it is a fumble, right? Because it's like there's arguments to be made about like what the best Sony produced video game of all time is. But like this, like the original God of War, not the original, sorry, but like the reboot of God of War, like that comes up in the conversation, right? Like there's an argument to be made that it is,
yes,
if not the best video game Sony has ever made, then it's one of the 3 best video games that Sony's ever made. And so the complete lack of ceremony for announcing this game that it's coming out this year, when there's been so much like speculation about if it would come out this year, if it was going to get delayed, if it was supposed to come out last year. And the fact that like they had a state of play at the beginning of summer, and they like didn't mention it, like that would have been a great moment to reveal it, just to have it come to reality in like a PlayStation blog post. That's the part that just feels weird to me. Like it's like they don't know how much people have been looking forward to this game. They don't know how much people love the first one. Like it just seems a little tone deaf from a marketing perspective. And so like that's the part that it just leaves me a little confused and a little not speechless, because I just talked about it for a minute and a half, but confused.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I think, I'll be honest, aside from the blog post thing, I totally agree with, they could have absolutely included this in the state of play last month. But the thing that kind of shocked me is we haven't seen this game in like a year. And, this is their big reveal, and we didn't get any sort of gameplay or like acknowledgement of a date when gameplay would be coming. Like it was um a little kind of bizarre, I guess, for lack of a better word, that they're like, hey, this game is out in 5 months, and by the way, here is no footage of the game or screenshots, just CG. And I'm like, all right, that's a little worrisome on my end. I don't know. I don't know if I'm overreacting, but it's just kind of a strange marketing cycle this game has been given. So we'll see what happens.
So I think a couple of these things can be explained away pretty clearly. And I think there's a whole second story to this announcement, right? This whole release date announcement, and that is that the dude who was leaking everything and was like getting everything right and like literally leaking everything about the games industry leaked that last week they were supposed to announce the release date. And I think that was probably accurate because that guy's known to be like very accurate about his leaks. And what I think ended up happening was that made a lot of people angry to the point where like, all right, enough is enough of this guy. Like, and I think they probably delayed the announcement of the release date to today. And it's like, then when they didn't announce anything last week, they got like a ton of like harassment and stuff because, like I said, this guy was pretty much right about everything beforehand.
Yeah,
He was
very
very,
accurate.
very accurate. And to the point where it's like, this couldn't have been a coincidence. Like, this guy knows what he's talking about. And it was pretty clear, in my point of view, that Santa Monica was doing this. They were kind of like, all right, well, no, screw this guy. Like, we're going to announce it on our own terms. Which is, they have the right to do that. I think that's fine. But I am wondering if they initially planned like a bigger reveal for it. They had something else planned and they scrapped it in order to get back at this guy. Maybe that's just speculation. As far as the trailer goes with no gameplay, I didn't even really cross my mind because we got gameplay of it like last year, I think it was, and it didn't really work out for them because what you got was a bunch of people that were like, this is exactly like God of War, the last one. Like, look at the boat animations. The boat animations are exactly the same. It's like, well, it's a sequel, so I'm not really sure what you want.
Kratos still looks the same.
Yeah, you see him doing those swinging the blades of chaos like that?
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Like you're buying God of War Ragnarok for the story. I mean, the game's gonna be fun to play, but like, if you just wanted the gameplay, you can play the last one. This is the continuation of the story. It's gonna have probably mostly the same gameplay with, if it follows the same God of War trend, a new weapon or two. We want to know, because like the last God of War was so plot focused. We want to know what happens next. The one thing I do think is interesting about Ragnarok is that they said this is not going to be a trilogy. This is a duology. This is going to be the last God of War in the Viking setting, which seems odd to me. There's a lot more to explore here, and I don't really like that. But again, I mean, I guess we don't know how big this game is. But I was fine with just a CG trailer because I'm like, I kind of feel like I know exactly what to expect.
Yeah.
I will say, like, the lack of ceremony does kind of suck. And I do think that maybe some of this had to do with like the leaker, like them trying to get back at him and ruin his reputation.
That is a good point though about the trailer. I guess I hadn't thought about that, and I think back to Horizon as well, with Horizon 2, where gameplay was shown for that, and everybody was like, "Well, it's more of the same." And so that's probably valid. Honestly, I had not thought about that with the previous gameplay that they showed. I do remember everybody saying, "Oh, this just looks like DLC for God of War." I very clearly remember that being thrown around on the internet, and
it's like the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my
I know,
life. Like,
I agree.
it's literally a sequel. Like, what do you want?
It is interesting though, right? Because like, What are you supposed to grade on now? Like, I mean, you guys were there, Seth. I think you're like a little bit more cognizant of it than Austin was, just because you're a little older. But like when a game started on PlayStation 2 and then came out on PlayStation 3, it was like, holy crap, right? Like there was like a marked improvement over what we had versus what we're about to get. And there's just not going to be like that sort of leap anymore, is there? Right? Like unless like some things like
No.
fundamentally change
No.
about like the way we play games. But like I think that's why they focus so much on plot, because the PlayStation 4, while it was prettier than the PlayStation 3, that PlayStation 3 God of War 3 is still impressively beautiful, you
Oh,
know?
it's gorgeous. That opening scene
On
when you're
Gaia.
fighting on a Titan and like
Ugh.
you get to zoom in on Kratos' face as he goes through the crack. Like I'll never forget that. That's when I remember specifically saying like, "Oh my god, like that's incredible." And it's just like we're getting so close to photorealism, and with Unreal Engine 5 coming out and like how that's going to change the game. Really, I think the next steps for game design are going to be, you know, um things like frame rate and lighting. Um but you're not going to see like these like screenshots of like, oh my god, like look how great this looks, because they all look nearly photorealistic, like especially the racing games, dude. When you compare it like side by sides of like a real life photo and like the new Forza or Gran Turismo's, they look like you can almost not even tell a difference,
Yeah.
and that is crazy to me. But yeah, it's I don't know what the net. I don't think you're gonna see a difference in
Well,
generations
I think
anymore.
you alluded to it already. Like it's going to be plot. It's going to be like
Mhm.
actual story and like narrative. Like that's going to be the maturation that people are looking for. That's going to be like the next step, is like the actual storytelling in the games. And like obviously there's bells and whistles attached to a game for like how you can do storytelling, right? Like it's not just in the words that are spoken or the plot that you follow forward, but like I think like that's going to be such an integral part of it.
I think you're gonna end up seeing a lot more like big time writers come into games, because back in the day they didn't have that. They didn't have any like real writers writing the games. And then that's slowly become a bigger and bigger part, where I would say like in a lot of games, the writing team could be viewed as like the most important now.
Mm.
Um and I think you're right, George. I think we're getting closer and closer to video games like stopping having the like the stigma attached to them, despite like some people's diehard like insistence on that. Um and I think what we're gonna see is continued more mainstream appeal to video games, and the plots get exponentially better. And that's hard to even imagine, because there's just a lot of video games like the first God of War where the story is insane and it's really really good. I think a lot of the characters are written wonderfully. So
No, that is a good point, though. I mean, mainstream wise, people, quote unquote, non gamers, plot. That's something anybody can enjoy. I mean, that you can enjoy that in a film, in a book, in a TV show. So I definitely agree. But something to look forward to. Either way, I'll be picking it up. I can't wait for it. Still, I love the first one. The first one is probably one of the best video games I've ever played. So
That's one of my favorite parts though. Is like you didn't see a gameplay trailer, you only saw like a cinematic, and like you're still
yep,
buying it day one.
I'm
That
still
doesn't
buying it.
matter.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. So all right, guys. Well, we'll wrap it up there. So thank you all for listening. Of course, you can find the show pretty much anywhere. Of course, you know that. So feel free to share the show with your friends. Tell them they can find it anywhere. We can always use more listeners, more friends. So have them check us out. We are on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram at frameskippod. We are individually on Twitter. I am at Austin J. Eller. Seth is at Seth the 90s Kid. Don't follow him. George is at Purple Bird 616, and that's also where you can find his comic book podcast, Shortbox Summary. So go check that out.
Yeah, this week we're doing Spider-Man the movie, the Sam Raimi movie from 2002. And then I hope to get Seth into the studio next week so we can talk about Marvel Knights and Amazing Spider-Man. I'm sorry for delaying this so long. The Celtics were in the playoffs way longer than I thought they would be.
So go check that out. Of course, aside from being on Twitter, there you can just search Shortbox Summary pretty much anywhere you can find our show and find George's show there as well. Elijah, who is not here on this episode, you can find him on Twitter at Loco Lizard Man, and then on Twitch at Loco Lizard Man, where he streams. And I think that's it. So thank you all for listening, and we'll check you next week. See ya.
Later.
Bang it out, rein it in.
That's sick, dude.